Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. Another With a Grain of Salt episode. I got my brother Gabe behind the camera.
What's up?
Yes, sir. That's going to be something that we're going to start incorporating into some of the solo episodes is having my brother Gabe behind the camera whenever he's available. If he's not, we'll stick to just me, but it's going to be nice having him and for you guys to get to know him and stuff like that. We did an episode together a couple episodes ago, so if you haven't listened to that, go tap in on navigating relationships and identity, I believe. Really dope episode, but that's besides the point. Welcome, my brother Gabe. This week's episode is going to be on faith, patience, and persistence. Faith, patience, and persistence. 3 key ingredients that you need in order to continue to grow and evolve into the best version of yourself. Pursue whatever it is you're pursuing, and I really wanted to talk about this because, like I mentioned in my previous episode about doubt and uncertainty and losing belief and things like that, there's going to be points in your journey where things are tough or, you're not really seeing things unfold in the way you want them to unfold. That's where faith comes in. There's going to be times in your journey where things aren't moving at the speed that you thought they would or that the speed you wish they were moving at. That's where patience comes in. And then there's going to be times where you're going to get knocked down and you got to continue to get back up and continue to take steps, even when things are tough, even when things are difficult. And that's where persistence comes in. So we're going to talk about these 3 ingredients and dive in. You ready, bro?
Can't wait. Let's dive in.
So without any further ado, let's dive in.
Yes, sir.
Point number 1, your journey through life will test you. Life isn't a straight path. It's a series of seasons, environments, relationships, and unexpected turns that continuously shape you. As you move through your journey, you're going to face challenges that stretch you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and physically as well. You'll walk into rooms where you feel unseen. You'll outgrow relationships you once thought would last forever. You'll step into new environments that feel uncomfortable and unfamiliar. And there will be moments where you simply don't know what's next. That's the reality of life. You're constantly navigating the known and the unknown at the same time. And in all of that, you're being tested. But the key is understanding that the tests are not there to break you, but to build you. Not there to confuse you, but to deepen your awareness and trust in the path. Not to stop you, but to help you evolve. Because life isn't just about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to what happens to you, like we mentioned in the last episode. This is a huge point. Just understanding that life isn't a straight path. Your path of growth and evolution isn't a straight path. What is that saying? Healing isn't linear.
Progress isn't linear.
Yes.
I say that all the time. I have to remind myself of that all the time.
Progress isn't linear.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's so important to remind yourself of that because when you're navigating all of the different seasons and environments, relationships, unexpected turns, delays, detours, a lot of times our awareness can be stripped from us because we're navigating all of those different things. And it's in those moments where we're going through different seasons, like I'm currently going through right now, a season of refinement, a season of pruning, where certain things that were once in my life so heavily, whether that's habits or people, are being kind of gracefully removed from my life. It's understanding that all of this stuff is shaping us. This is a part of the process. And I was talking to my mom about this, with any worthwhile dream or vision or goal, you have to understand you are going to be tested. You are going to be tested. It is inevitable, right? And that is a big key to why so many of us suffer in life, is because we try to avoid the inevitable parts of life. Imagine how much suffering you are bringing to yourself by constantly trying to avoid things that are inevitable. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's wild. Avoiding things that are inevitable. It's inevitable you're going to face times of uncertainty. It's inevitable you're going to face challenges. It's inevitable you're going to face adversity. It's inevitable you're going to face rejection. It's inevitable you're going to fail. So trying to avoid these things, it's inevitable you're going to feel fear. So trying to avoid these things is only causing us suffering. So the first step, cultivating awareness. The second step is shifting our perspective.
Yeah, I think everyone romanticizes growth and progress, but no one talks about how actually awkward it is and uncomfortable it is to experience in the moment.
Mm.
And some real life examples for me are like leaving college and getting out and going into every transition phase of your life is awkward and uncomfortable. And that's where the most growth happens.
Wow.
Um, but it's sort of foggy while you're in it and you can't really
You're
see
hitting.
forward,
Yes.
but looking back on it, it's always like you appreciate the growth that you experienced in that time.
Mm-hmm. But when you're in it, sometimes it's hard to have that
It's
perspective.
hard to have the eagle-eyed vision because it's so foggy.
You're hitting.
You're in the moment.
You're hitting. You're hitting. And it's in those moments where we have to go to our grains, our things that keep us grounded, aligned, and in tune, like this podcast for so many of us, to help us to remind ourselves of the perspective that we need to carry through those seasons. But that's a really important point that you said. It says every new level of your life will require a new version of you, which means you will constantly be asked to let go of who you once were. Let's just stop right there. Every new level of your life will require a new version of you, which means you will constantly be asked to let go of who you once were. That is a very difficult thing to do for a lot of us. And when you lack the understanding of that's how evolution works, then you're going to be in this constant fight of life, trying to stay the same while getting different experiences, while growing. But if you want to grow, you're going to have to be willing to let go. If you want to grow, you're going to have to be willing to let go. Let go of people, let go of certain environments, let go of certain ways of living, let go of certain versions of yourself. Letting go is not comfortable, but it is a prerequisite to you stepping into the things that are for you, right? How often do we talk about certain things that were once so rooted in identities that we've carried since childhood that we just need to let go of in order for us to be, the best versions of ourselves, or us to do the things that we want to do. And when we're thinking of the goals or versions of ourselves or reality of life that we're trying to live, we have to think of, okay, what if there's a certain reality or type of way that I want to live, what is the version of me that's aligned with that reality? What is the version of me that's aligned with that reality? How do they think? How do they act? Right? How do they show up for themselves? And it's learning how to embody that in the moment. It's learning how to embody that in the moment. But that's a really important point. Every new level of your life will require a new version of you.
Yeah.
Mm.
It hits, yeah. I always think growth is really just the death of your old identity. And this is where progress is not linear because in order to figuratively kill off the old version of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just wake up one morning and bam, you're a different person. Maybe for some people, but for most of us, it takes a lot of reminding yourself of the alignment that you need to be on, the journey that you need to be on, where you want to align yourself. And it takes a lot of work and progress and active consideration. So no progress is not linear, but the end goal is to shift your identity completely.
It's very true. This is in the book Atomic Habits. It's not about habit change. It's about identity change. A lot of people try to instill new habits or new ways of being while staying in the same identity of the old thing or the old way of living that they're trying to get away from, and it doesn't align with what they're trying to see happen in the life, and it's not an easy thing to do because something that people don't talk about when they're talking about letting go of old versions of themselves is a lot of times there's so many things attached to those versions of ourselves. So we're not just letting go of the version of ourselves, we're also letting go of everything that's attached to the version of ourselves. And that's a very tough thing. I don't know if I'm really ready to let go of that person. I don't really know if I'm really ready to let go of that belief. I don't know if I'm really ready to let go of that way of living and being.
100%. Think about a lot of my judgment is clouded by nostalgia, but when I remove those nostalgia goggles and I look back at what I was really experiencing in old versions of myself, it was not as glamorous or as perfect as I remember it.
Mm.
And you have to really try to ground yourself and think, what would I truly be feeling 5 years ago when I was a different person?
Hmm.
You know,
I never thought of it like that.
because it's easy to look back and think of all these things happening in your life years ago and glamorize it and be like, man, those were the times. But in reality, you were still going through all the stuff you're going through. You're still experiencing hardship and pain and sadness and insecurity.
Hmm. Yes, that's a good point because I've even at times I've caught myself thinking about when I was in college or when I was at a certain, in a certain environment or around certain people. And sometimes I can see how people can get so caught up in staring at the past that they get stuck there. Like you hear it all the time when you talk to certain, people who are older, they say, man, enjoy college. Those are the best years of your life.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. This exact phenomenon.
Yeah. It's like, although that's the,
Enjoy it while you're young.
yeah, right. Enjoy it while you're young. Those are the best times of your life. And it's like, so what's going on now for you? Like if college was the best time of your life, what are you doing now? Are you just like, have you just created this notion that life can never be better than your experiences in college? And because it can't ever be better than that, you're constantly looking back and in nostalgia and wishing that you can go back.
Where that is coming from, in my opinion, is a false sense that you no longer have full control over your life, because a lot of people in college, they experience a lot of freedom. They're out of their house for the first time, no supervision, and they basically feel like they can, choose their own path. But once you start settling down, those comes with attachments like job obligations,
Yep.
relationships,
Yep.
kids. So you feel tied more and more to those real life things. But and that's very real, but there's so much freedom and autonomy that you gain with that and that you continue to have. At the end of the day, you're always in charge of your destiny, your day-to-day life, the decisions that you make. And so to think back to college and say, those were the times, man, that's when I had like the most freedom. No, you still have freedom.
Right. The thing about college too is every year there's something different. New classes, right? New relationships, trying new things. And then it's almost as if right when we graduate college, we get, like you said, settled down into jobs, family, certain locations. And then we just create this redundant cycle of doing that day after day, month after month, year after year. That just becomes our life. And of course, if you're just doing the same things every single day and it's very redundant, you know what I mean? Just living in the same way, moving in the same way, talking in the same way, never challenging yourself to try new things, be around new people, learn new stuff. Yeah, I mean, then you are going to look at those past times as those were the best times of my life because this just feels dull.
I was just thinking, part of what makes being young in college feel so raw is because your emotions are raw, because yeah, the highs are high, but the lows are very low too. You're on an emotional roller coaster because your life is constantly being changed, uprooted, new relationships, new classes, new friends, new experiences. So it's a lot of up and down, but again, some of those lows are pretty low in college. And so there's a beauty in settling into a routine and stuff. And there's ways that you can switch up your routine day to day and make it interesting and still give yourself a reason to have drive and passion and fulfillment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do not overlook the importance of trying things outside of your comfort zone, trying new things. This is a prime example of that. This is really the second time that I've done this, but this isn't a regular thing that we've done on the podcast by having somebody behind the camera. And so we're trying something new with my brother Gabe. And this right here is already something that we're having to get used to. But it's stepping into that, it's leaning into uncertainty, leaning into the unknown with a curious mindset. Don't view uncertainty and the unknown as something to run from. That's just a sign that you're stepping into new territory. And with new territory comes new opportunities, new relationships, new blessings, new growth. That's a beautiful thing. And that's why it says uncertainty is not a sign that you're lost. It's a sign that you're stepping into something new that just hasn't fully revealed itself yet. That's so true. How often do we start to panic because we have stepped into something new, but it hasn't fully revealed itself yet? So we're in this weird space where we know we're not where we once were, and we know that we're in somewhere new, but where we are is very unfamiliar, and with unfamiliar territory comes a lot of different emotions, right? And sometimes when you have the wrong perspective with uncertainty or unfamiliar territory, you can view it through the wrong lens. And because you're viewing it through the wrong lens, that's how you experience it. So many people retreat. So many people try to avoid, move around those times. But it's actually in that where some of the greatest growth and evolution will be for you, right? So understand that uncertainty is not a sign you're lost. That's another thing that you have to really ingrain in your life. It's so easy in this egotistical society, this externalistic society, to think that because I am in a season of uncertainty, that means I'm lost. No, you are not lost because you are in a season of uncertainty. You are just stepping into new, unfamiliar territory. That's it. Uncertainty is a gift. Uncertainty is a gift. And I know hearing that at first may be very counterintuitive and go against what we've been conditioned and programmed to believe, but understand uncertainty is a gift. Uncertainty holds new realms, new relationships, new opportunities. So many different things can happen in uncertainty. But when things are certain and you know how everything's going to work, I mean, it feeds the ego. Your ego wants control, but it doesn't really leave room for surprise. And uncertainty is a beautiful thing because it provides us with an opportunity to lean into faith, to believe in the things that we can't see, to trust into the vision, right? Faith over fear. They say faith and fear both require you to believe in something you can't see. Choose wisely. Choose wisely.
To me, faith is more than just some abstract concept. It's believing in something before it makes sense externally. And a lot of times it's believing in yourself and having confidence in yourself.
Come on.
And again, when you're in the moment, it's foggy and you can't really see a clear outcome. But you need to have faith in yourself, ground yourself, and have the confidence of, I know what I'm doing. I can make it through whatever situation I'm in. Real life example is starting this podcast.
Yes.
You had the faith in yourself you had no idea where this would lead. Start out with no followers, no clear grand vision, but taking small steps and just doing it.
Yes.
Posting consistently with no feedback, and people not taking it seriously at first, maybe, but now look what it's grown into.
Absolutely.
Because you kept that faith the entire time.
Very true. That's a really good point. And you got to have faith in yourself, right? A lot of people, they'll get a vision or they'll have a dream. But once the dream meets their self-confidence, it's a no-go. You think about the vision, but then you think about yourself and you're like, nah, there's no way. You need to understand that the reason you have the vision is because there is a way. You wouldn't have the vision if there was no way for you to achieve it. Usually what stops us from actually pursuing and achieving the dreams and visions that we have is us. Our lack of self-belief, our lack of faith, right? Being around the wrong crowd. And when you understand that, right, then it begs the question, okay, how can I get out of my own way? We'll start with those small little things that you do to build up the faith and self-trust you have in yourself, to build up that self-confidence. Self-confidence doesn't come from just trying to force yourself to be confident. It comes through the daily actions you take in pursuit of the best version of yourself or the vision that you're trying to pursue. To use the podcast, when I started off this podcast, it was me taking those small daily steps of going out and trying different things and learning editing and making different videos and just starting small and taking those steps. And every step was just slowly affirming or building that self-confidence and feeding the faith that I had in myself and in the vision. So be mindful of that, especially when you're navigating different seasons. And we're going to talk about faith in the next point. But yeah, it's a key ingredient.
I feel like when you're in a phase where you're growing, there's always going to be a time where it looks like nothing is working, you're not making progress, but that's actually when everything is being built and when you're making the most progress. And I always say, if you need results to believe in yourself, then you're already behind. Why do you need external validation to believe in yourself when the process is all it is?
If you need things outside of yourself to believe in yourself, you're already falling behind the 8 ball. Self-belief is internal. Yes, you have to show up for yourself externally with the actions and steps that you take. But self-belief is internal. A lot of people have identities and certain subconscious beliefs that go against the things that they're trying to achieve in life. If I'm trying to get fit, but I identify as a lazy person, that don't coincide. I'm making it harder for myself. Because like it says in the book Atomic Habits, it's not about habit change, it's about identity change. It's not about habit change, it's about identity change. And what you said is such an important point. So many times on our journey of growth, on our journey of trying to be better versions of ourselves, of trying to pursue a vision that we have, you have to understand that a lot of times the path is not going to feel like you're on the right path. When you're going through adversity, when you're facing tests, when you are lacking clarity, when you're trying to navigate a lot of uncertainty, it's not going to feel like things are working. It's not going to feel like you're moving in the right direction. But you have to understand, this is perspective. You have to understand that those times are a part of your growth, not the opposite of it. We face uncertainty, we think something's wrong. We have some fear, we think something's wrong. We face a roadblock, we think something's wrong. But if you knew, right, let's say God had all of these things constructed in your path and told you that, hey, when you face uncertainty, when you hit that challenge up the road, when you go through that heartbreak, I just want you to know that all those things are happening for you and are happening so that you can grow and develop into a better version of yourself. If you knew that to be true 1000%, how would you approach and handle and navigate those times when they came up in your journey? That is the exact perspective you need to have when those things arise in your journey. When uncertainty comes, understand, whoa. I may feel fear. Yeah, I may feel some discomfort, but I know that this is happening for me. I know that what I am going through, I am growing through. And I'm going to continue to root myself in the perspective that aligns with the best version of me and not the perspective that keeps me confined and down. Because perspective dictates experience. How you view what you do impacts how you do what you do. That's a bar. And like you were talking about the fog, it's like navigating through fog. You can't see the full path ahead. You can only see a few steps in front of you. But as you keep moving, more of the path reveals itself. As you keep moving. And how do you keep moving? Faith, persistence, patience. So much of the journey is learning how to be patient with yourself. You got to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient when you are trying to become someone you've never been before. You have to be patient when you're trying to do something you've never done before. You have to be patient when you're trying to go somewhere you've never went before. You have to be patient with yourself. Right? The same way you're patient with a kid when they're trying to learn something new for the first time is the same way you need to be patient with yourself when you're trying to grow and be better in a certain area. Patience. And when you're patient with yourself, it's going to help you to be more patient with the overall journey. Right? A lot of us aren't patient with ourselves. Right? You have to understand, hey, you're going to sometimes make mistakes. You're going to sometimes fall down. You're not always going to get everything right on the path of trying to be better, of trying to pursue the vision that you have. So with that perspective, when those things happen, when I make a mistake, when I fall down, when maybe I sway off the path a little bit, I'm going to be patient with myself. Yes, I'm going to hold myself accountable. Yes, I'm going to get on myself when I need to get on myself, but I'm going to be patient with myself. I'm going to have compassion for myself, and I'm going to work with myself. A lot of people work against themselves when they're trying to grow. I'm trying to grow, but every time I make a mistake, I beat myself down. As if you're not supposed to make any mistakes if you're trying to be a better version of yourself. That's ego-rooted, ego-driven. Ego says you need to do everything perfect. Your spirit knows, hey, this journey is not about perfection. It's about progression. It's about becoming. It's about evolution. Becoming, evolution, and progression all have mistakes, mess ups, adversity, times where you fall down in them. So when those times come, we're not going to trip. We're not going to trip. Uncertainty as well. We're not going to trip.
Yeah, when you fall down, when you're making progress, you always have to remind yourself that a slip up doesn't mean you're starting from square one. You've already made so much progress up to this point, and you're already in the mode of shifting your mindset, right?
Come on.
Right? So if you're trying to eat healthier and you've been good for 2 weeks straight and then you slip up once, that's not you starting from square one. You've already made 2 weeks of proving to yourself that you can do it.
Mm-hmm. A practice for point number 1. When you feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, ground yourself by focusing on just the next step, not the whole path. Ask yourself, what is one aligned action I can take right now? That's it. Right? When you're going through a test, when things are getting difficult, when you're navigating uncertainty, our mind immediately goes to, how can we figure all this out now? How's everything going to work now? Hey, in that moment, ground yourself in this step right in front of you. Let me take a deep breath and understand, I need to be where my feet are. I'm going to get through whatever I'm navigating, because life moves in seasons, right? Life moves in phases. So I'm going to get through whatever I'm navigating, and it's okay. But what is one aligned step I can take in this moment? And let me just take that. And then let me do that again and again and again. Before you know it, 5, 10 aligned steps. And now you have momentum, and that momentum is going to carry you to places that you never thought you could go to. Momentum is very powerful. Momentum is very powerful. Point number 2. Faith is trusting even when there's no visible evidence. Faith is trusting when there's no visible evidence. Faith is not just believing when things make sense. It's choosing to stay grounded when everything looks like it's falling apart. The journey toward your vision will often look the opposite of what you expected. Doors close, opportunities fall through, relationships end, and internally, you may start questioning yourself. But faith is the ability to see beyond your current circumstances. It's understanding that what's happening for you doesn't always feel good to you. Can we just stop right now? Can we just stop right there? Faith is understanding that what is happening for you doesn't always feel good to you. What a perspective shift that is. Often the things that are happening for me won't always feel good to me. Let me carry that perspective through my journey. The things that are happening for me won't always feel good to me. So when I'm facing discomfort and it don't feel good, when I'm navigating the ending of a relationship and it don't feel good, when I'm stepping away from an environment that I've been in for so long and it doesn't feel comfortable, let me not correlate that to something's wrong. Let me not correlate that to I'm moving in the wrong direction. No, let me understand that these things are actually happening for me. And often, right, this is where we ground ourselves in the perspective, in the reminder. Often, what is happening for me doesn't always feel good to me. But when you see where it leads you, you're going to be incredibly grateful that you went through it. And then I love it. I love what it says about faith is the ability to see beyond your current circumstances. So many people get confined to what they can see currently. This is the importance of having a vision for your life, a vision of the best version of yourself, because it gives you the ability to see beyond your current circumstances. Yeah, I know where I'm at is uncomfortable. Yeah, I know where I'm at may not be the best place, but I'm not going to get stuck here. I'm not going to think this is the end all be all. No. I'm not going to allow my emotional state to be contingent on my current circumstances, because I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm being led. I know the vision that I have on my heart. And I have faith that these things will come into fruition in my life. I'm going to continue to take steps, show up for myself every single day. Be consistent with that. And I'm going to lean on faith over fear.
A lot of us know this intuitively, because don't tell me if you've ever been on a team that there have been days where you don't want to show up to practice, or coach is pushing you a little too hard, or it just feels like a drag. And think about what would happen if you took that adversity as a sign to quit and drop it right there just because it's uncomfortable and you don't want to be going through that right now. What always ends up happening is because you have someone keeping you accountable, you show up and you do it even though you don't want to. And then you come out the other end of it, and 10 out of 10 times we look back on those experiences and we're grateful for them.
It's a great analogy. That's so good. It's so true.
So why don't we apply that to other areas of our lives? Why do we need someone to keep us accountable externally? So then you get out on your own and you don't have anyone holding you accountable. Why can't we just apply those same principles to our lives?
Yeah, it's tough. And we're going to do a whole episode on that because we were talking about that off camera. Just like, you know, if we want to use sports, like, you know, if you were doing like weights or if you were doing practice, like you don't skip reps when coach is watching. You don't skip reps when you have somebody supervising what you're doing. But the moment that they look away, you see certain guys or certain people take a rep off, take a break. And it's like you're showing your capabilities when they're watching. So you're showing yourself and you're showing the people watching that you can do the full amount of reps. But the moment that they're not there, the moment nobody's holding you accountable, you start to take reps off. You start to take breaks. So the question is, okay, how can we match who we are with our maximum capability, our maximum potential? Our potential is who we are when people are watching. When people are watching you and you're not skipping reps, that's what you are capable of doing every single time. So the goal is to match who you are when no one's watching to who you are when people are watching, and just make that who you are. And that message hits me because I've dealt with that, especially when I was done with college basketball and stuff. Yeah, I'm disciplined and I hold myself accountable in certain areas, but there's always that voice like, I mean, you don't have to be at the gym at a certain time. There's no coach to check in with. Nobody's watching you. You don't have to do an extra rep. So that's where that self-accountability comes in.
What's funny is almost all of us use those cope methods and then we give in sometimes. And then after the fact, at least I look back and I sort of regret, I judge myself for not taking that extra step because I could have. And I made an active decision in the moment based on a false reality that no one is going to hold me accountable.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe no one's going to hold me accountable in the moment, but am I going to get the results that I want? Like, how serious are you about this goal?
Yeah.
About the process?
Yep.
About seeking fulfillment through this?
Back to faith. Faith grows strongest in isolation and uncertainty, not in clarity. You don't really need faith when things are certain in your life, when things are clear. Faith grows most in isolation and uncertainty. When things are very, very cloudy, when you're not sure on things, that's where you need faith. That's where you need faith. It grows in isolation when you're all alone. All right? You're not really connecting to anybody. You just feel like you're navigating a lot of stuff internally. That's where faith is really cultivated the most. Real talk. Because it's easy to get caught up in that. It's easy to get stuck there. It's easy to get stuck there. A lot of times we prolong the seasons that we go through because of our perspective in it. We think it's going to last forever. And we get so down on ourselves. And I understand it could be very difficult. I mean, I'm still navigating things. Like this is so interesting because I went into 2026 so clear, so uplifted. And it's literally been the exact opposite of, I don't want to say what I expected, but what I was going in with. It's been, I thought it was going to be, and right there, that's the problem. I thought. Let's just stop right there. I mean, that's a moment of self-reflection. Oh, I thought it was going to be this. So now that it's not what I thought, guess what that creates? This internal narrative that something's wrong.
Yeah.
And when you feel like something is wrong, how can you even be grateful? How can you even be present? Very hard to do that. And this is why I love this podcast right here, because like I've told y'all many times before, this is like therapy for me. I just got a revelation right there. I thought, whoa, what if this just was a year where you were going to be tested and pressured and pushed and forced out of comfort? What if that's what, God had for you this year? But because it's not what you expected, something's wrong. No, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Just be open to what's arising in your journey. And even if it's not comfortable, even if it's not what you desire, understand that it's happening for you. It's happening for you. It's going to be okay. What feels like delay is often divine alignment. Things are being positioned in ways you can't see. When things are being positioned in your life, that's not a comfortable process. You have to be shifted internally. Things need to be shifted externally. That's part of you evolving and growing. And a lot of times things are moving and happening in ways that you really cannot see. And that's where you have to lean on faith. You got to lean on faith. But repositioning is not comfortable. Repositioning is not comfortable. And a lot of times that repositioning is happening internally. I'm feeling these shifts. Things are feeling like they're off, right? I'm being pulled, I'm being pushed, pressured, whatever it is. Relationships aren't really feeling as connected. Things are feeling delayed. But let's get to the point where the moment we think that things are being delayed in our life, we immediately correlate that to divine alignment, divine direction. No, things are not being delayed. These things are being divinely aligned. Things aren't being delayed. Things are being positioned. Right there. Right there. I had this in a episode a couple back where I said delayed does not mean denied. Just because something you thought should have already happened hasn't, doesn't mean it won't happen. Maybe there's just some more development and positioning happening or needing to happen first. And a lot of times we think we're ready for things that we're not. That's just a fact. A lot of times and I've been a proponent of this. A lot of times I've thought, when I look back on my journey, if things happened exactly when I wanted them to happen, I wouldn't have been ready for it. I wouldn't have been ready for it. And that's where I had to hold myself accountable. And then it taught me to just stay open to life. Let things work at the speed they're meant to work at. Let things cultivate in the way they're meant to cultivate. Just continue to focus on the moment, continue to take steps in alignment, and trust in that. Everything else is outside of your control. And all those things, you got to lead to God. Let go and let God. However you conceptualize that.
Faith comes back in because faith is just delayed evidence. Where would growth happen if all along the way in the process, every single input that you had gave you back an output that you're making progress? Growth would not happen because part of growth is discomfort. You can't have growth without discomfort.
Yes. It's a really good point.
You can't.
Or uncertainty.
You can't have uncertainty. Yeah. You can't have growth without uncertainty.
Yep.
You can't have greatness without growth. You can't have growth without uncertainty and discomfort. Think about that. You think the greatest athletes in the world never had a moment of discomfort or uncertainty or nervousness?
It's a lifestyle.
Or insecurity?
Yes. It goes to the saying, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. You think Michael Phelps went into every single race knowing, I'm just going to win this? You think he would swim as fast if he was confident that he was going to win every single race?
I don't even think it was. I don't know about that one, because I feel like he did go into every race like, yeah, I'm better than everybody here.
Maybe not at the start.
Yeah, but it's more of like how do I word this? Like, you're just so rooted in the work that you've put in.
Right.
A lot of those athletes are just so rooted in the work that they put in. But you can go back to the point that you made. Yes, you can use that with just people who have done amazing things. Like, yeah, the saying, you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like, I've said this so many times on the podcast. It's not about changing all of these different aspects of life. It's about changing our relationship and perspective on these different aspects of life, because they're inevitable, like we said earlier. Uncertainty, discomfort, failure, facing all these different emotions. It's inevitable. So how can we learn how to navigate and handle these things in a more aligned, authentic way? That's the key.
And
That's the key.
beyond that, loss, suffering, sadness, all those things are inevitable aspects of life that everyone experiences. And those are things that just happen, whether you want them to or not.
Mm-hmm.
And things that you can't necessarily predict or determine, when or how it's going to affect you. And so it's learning to turn those things into growth.
Absolutely. Turn those things into opportunities for growth.
Yep.
Obstacle or opportunity. Rejection or redirection. Blessing in disguise or burden. Perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. This is one of my favorite analogies when it comes to faith and just the journey of growth. Think of planting a seed. For weeks, there's no visible growth, but underground, everything is happening. If you dig it up too early because you think nothing's working, you kill the process. You got to allow for things to develop.
Yeah.
You got to view your journey as a seed planted underground. And at first, for a large part of the journey, there's no visible evidence that anything's happening. That's where faith comes in. I have faith that if I plant this seed, it's going to grow into this beautiful plant. I have faith that when I plant the seed, as long as I'm watering it, it's getting sunlight, and it's in good soil, that it's growing underneath the ground, even when I can't see it. So we're going to apply that same construct to our life. I have faith that even when it doesn't feel like things are happening, it doesn't seem like things are happening, I can't really see any evidence externally, I'm going to have faith that there's so much happening in ways that I cannot see. And I'm going to lean more into that with perspective, awareness, and intention than I do the fear, or the uncertainty, or the discomfort. Because what you feed grows. What you feed in your life grows. You feed gratitude. You feed the right perspective. You feed that growth mindset. That's going to grow. You feed the fear. You feed avoidance. You feed suppression. You feed pessimism. That's what's going to grow in your life. So the key is to starve the things you don't want and to feed the things you do want. Starve the things you don't want and feed the things you do want. Starve the things that don't align and feed the things that do align. Starve the things that don't align, feed the things that do align. What you feed grows. How do you feed it? With your attention.
Attention.
Because where your attention goes, energy follows. Whatever I'm giving majority of my attention to, that is what I'm giving majority of my energy to.
And attention is everything. It's from the things you're doing, the people you're hanging out with, spending time with, the schedule you're maintaining, but it's also the media that you're consuming.
Oh, man.
Music, videos, movies, everything.
What you consume, you become.
So if your whole algorithm is all pessimism, the world's ending, everything bad, how do you think you're going to feel?
And that's definitely not going to feed faith.
It's definitely not going to.
It's definitely not going to feed faith.
So sometimes we need to literally reset, and you could do that.
Come on.
Reset. Remove yourself from social circles that are dragging you down. Remove yourself from the algorithm that's making you feel this way. And that requires self-awareness. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's true.
Man, and we got to remind ourselves that we don't need permission from anyone or anything outside of ourselves to do what we feel is right for us. So often we get caught into this trap, this misconception that I need the permission of people around me or things outside of me to affirm me making a decision or to be there in order to do the things that I want to do. No, you don't. You don't need permission to step away from a relationship. You don't need permission to start being more intentional with your energy. You don't need permission for any of that at all. And that's something I have to constantly remind myself. I don't need permission to do what I feel is aligned with the best version of me. If that means taking some space for me, I don't need permission to take that space. If that means moving in a different direction, I don't need permission to move in that direction. If that means stepping away from a relationship, I don't need permission to step away from that relationship. The permission is in my spirit. That's it. So I'm going to move with that perspective throughout my journey.
And what's amazing is all this connects to everything we've been saying. I said earlier that people have a false sense of a lack of control in their lives. And this is that same thing.
Yes.
You have a false sense that you can't let go of these people or these things in your life because whatever correlation you have a false sense of control because you feel attached to these people. And that attachment is giving you a sense that, well, I can't let go. No, you have full control over your life. You have full control and you don't need permission. If something is bad for you, leave it.
Or not aligned, whatever it is.
Or not aligned. Why are you wasting all this time and energy sitting here giving energy and attention to it?
Because a lot of the reason that we've done that is because we have built our whole life off of what people outside of us think is good.
True.
Right? A lot of people have built their whole reality based off of what people outside of them validate and think is okay. So, of course, the moment that you want to actually do something different or you want to move in a different direction, there's going to be a lot of resistance there because your mind is going to be like, hold on. Before we do that, we got to make sure it's okay with these people. But that is an illusion. That is a deception. You actually don't need their permission. The only reason you think you need their permission or their validation is because that's what you have been programmed and conditioned into growing up. Here's the beautiful thing about programming and conditioning. The same way you were programmed and conditioned to be one way is the same way you can program and condition yourself to be a whole different way. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. Right there.
It's true. We're adaptable creatures.
We are adaptable creatures. You can adapt and change into somebody completely new. But so often we get tied down to perception, identities, relationships, environments, beliefs, and we feel like we cannot be anything outside of this.
You want a real world example of this?
Yes.
When the Industrial Revolution happened, there was a huge movement of people called Luddites, and the whole movement was sparked out of people were so afraid that these new machines and factories were going to replace their jobs, so they took baseball bats to the machines trying to resist that change.
Wow.
And that process. Well, the reality is that the process is inevitable. That change is going to happen whether you want it to or not. And so what ended up happening is, no, it didn't replace their jobs. It made their jobs easier, faster, more productive, more efficient. They just didn't have the clarity in the moment, so they resisted that change.
Because that change felt like it was an attack.
Yeah. An attack on them.
An attack on them.
And their autonomy and their livelihood.
Man, that is a great analogy because how often do we feel like change is an attack in our life? We're being attacked.
It's happening to us.
It's happening to
We
us.
don't feel like we have control over it, so we attack it.
Right.
We resist it.
Right. And it's so interesting how we want certain things, but how we're living contradicts it. I've dealt with this so many times. I've seen it so many times. What you desire and how you live completely contradicts itself. And it's like, what else do we expect to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What else do we expect to happen? It's tough. But before I lose my train of thought, I want to come back to this point of faith, because I know there's going to be people. How do I cultivate faith? This is the beauty of uncertainty. This is the beauty of when you're feeling maybe a little bit confused or lost in your journey. That's the opportunity to cultivate faith. When you don't know, that's the opportunity to cultivate faith. Because faith isn't just something you say, it's something you embody. And you embody it in moments of uncertainty, in moments where you lack clarity, in moments where you're stepping into something new and things aren't as familiar, in moments where you're worrying about a certain outcome. Those are opportunities to cultivate faith. And you have to really work on that internal dialogue you have with yourself through these moments. Okay, I'm speaking to myself. I'm feeling lost. I'm worrying about all these things in my life. I'm feeling really confused. What can I do in this moment that actually helps me move through this rather than hinders my ability to move through this? Do I need to refine my perspective? Okay, what is it? Maybe I need to lean on reminders. Maybe it's a book I like to go to. Maybe it's a podcast I like to go to, like the With a Grain of Salt podcast, right? Maybe it's a creator. Maybe there's, I go to my journaling, whatever it is. Are there certain people that I need to be around more or stay away from? Right? Ask yourself these questions. Sit with yourself. Talk to yourself. Work with yourself through these times, because they're inevitable.
Yeah.
Point number 3, patience. Patience. And this is a key. This is a point that I know so many people struggle with. Patience. I mean, because if you look in our society, it's the opposite of patient. Everything's rush, hustle, now, no delayed gratification. Understand that patience isn't passive. It's an active form of trust. Patience is an active form of trust. It's continuing to show up, do the work, and stay aligned, even when the results aren't immediate. In a world that glorifies speed, patience feels like falling behind. But understand, spiritually, patience is what keeps you in alignment. When you rush, you move from a place of fear. When you're patient, you move from a place of trust. And your vision requires trust, not fear. Your vision requires trust, not fear. Your vision requires patience, not impatience. Why does it require patience? Because in order for you to step into the totality of what that vision is, you have to be developed into the version of yourself that's in alignment with that vision. That development takes time. And because it takes time, what do you need? Patience. You need patience. Patience with yourself, patience with the journey, patience with God's plan. This is where you have to get out of your own way. So often we have these rigid plans that we need to see happen, that we actually get in the way of allowing God to work in our life, allowing universal alignment to happen, because we want it to look like this. We need it to be like this.
This is where in Buddhism they have the concept of we create our own suffering, because a lot of times we, instead of being patient, we resist reality. And so we think to ourselves, this moment shouldn't be happening. It's like what you said. I thought 2026 was going to be different. I thought I was going to be at this point. This shouldn't be happening. You're creating your own suffering, because if you just accepted that you have, at some point, you have no control over external reality, then you're okay. Okay, I've accepted it. I'm at peace. But we create our own suffering.
We do.
By not having patience.
Come on. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice.
Yes.
As they say. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. I use that very lightly because I understand that there's a lot going on in the world currently. People are suffering. So obviously take that with a grain of salt. But I mean this in the sense of it's inevitable you're going to face pain. Ending of a relationship, heartbreak, loss of somebody, rejection, whatever that looks like, failing at something. There's pain involved in that. The suffering comes when you try to resist the pain. We try to resist the experience. But patience. Something that will completely take you away from being patient is comparison.
Yep.
How can you be patient when you're constantly looking at what the next man or woman has, thinking that you need to be there, thinking it need to look like that? And because your life doesn't look like that, or it isn't where that person's is, you're not gonna be patient with it. Nah, we need to hurry up. This is where you have to be very intentional and aware. Hold on. I think I'm giving too much attention to what other people are doing. By giving my attention to what other people are doing, I'm giving it energy. By giving it energy, it's being magnified in my life. So I need to be mindful of where my attention is going. Because I promise you, you were not put on this earth to constantly be looking at what everybody else is doing, to constantly be analyzing everybody else's life, to constantly be comparing your timeline and your journey to other people's. I promise you that's not what you were put here to do. And if you find yourself caught into that loop, you're going to find yourself living very impatiently, doing things that don't align, rushing the process, trying to make your life look like somebody else's when that may not even be what you were meant to do. It's so crazy how we wonder why we don't have certain peace in things. Why would you get peace from something that isn't meant for you? Let's think about that. Why would you get peace from something that isn't meant for you? If I'm trying to make my life look like somebody else's, make my journey be a carbon copy of somebody else's, it makes sense why I would probably have a lot of discontent in that process. Yeah, because that's not what you're meant to be doing. This is the importance of the relationship you have with yourself. You got to figure out who you are, right? Gabe, my brother Gabe, when we first met, how did we get to know each other? We started spending time together. We started having deep conversations. I was actively listening to you. You were actively listening to me. I was asking you questions. You would ask me questions, right? We spent time together, quality time together. Mm-hmm. We tried different things together. I need you guys to take that same exact framework and apply it to yourself. Start spending time with yourself. Start being present with yourself. Start listening to yourself. Start asking yourself questions from a place of curiosity, not judgment. Start to sit with yourself. Empathy. How many times have we sat with each other through difficult times and felt the emotions of the other person?
Many.
You got to learn how to sit with yourself through certain emotions. Be there with yourself through difficult times. That's how you build a relationship with yourself. The more you have a healthy and grounded relationship with yourself, the more you're going to know yourself. The more you know yourself, the more you're going to know what is for you and what isn't for you. The more you're going to live authentically and aligned. But when you don't know yourself, you're going to try to find yourself in everything outside of yourself. So I'm going to try to find myself in somebody else's path. I'm going to try to find myself in this relationship. I'm going to try to find myself in this career. You were never meant to find yourself outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm. And what's beautiful is you can learn how to work with yourself and collaborate with yourself to find the best version of alignment.
Come on.
Because you and I are different people. We come from different backgrounds. We have two different perspectives, different ways of thinking about the world. But we have a mutual respect for each other and a mutual curiosity and interest towards each other. And because of that, when we come together, we have a collaboration that enhances our strengths.
Yes.
It doesn't highlight each other's weaknesses, but we highlight each other's strengths, and we bring two different aspects of the table.
Mm-hmm.
You need to learn how to do that with yourself as well.
Yes. Come on. And we hold each other accountable.
Yep.
All right. Find it, man. Let me just say that, man. I just want to give you a moment of gratitude. Find you a friend like Gabe, a brother like Gabe. Man is one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. For real, man, that is a great, genuine dude. And when you find people like that, you got to really cherish them. So
you too, brother.
No doubt. An analogy for patience. It's like cooking something on low heat. If you try to rush it on high, you might cook the outside, but the inside remains raw, or you might burn it. That's very true. You know, like when you think about cooking a meal, some things are required to be cooked on low heat so that they cook in the right way. If you try to rush that process by turning up the heat, overdo it, or you only cook the outside, the inside still raw. That's why you got to allow things to develop at their own time. Everything in your life has its own speed that it's moving at, right? Every seed that you plant grows on its own unique timeline. So you have to understand that these different aspects of my life that I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to be better in, I have to be patient with them. I have to be patient with them. And patience comes by you focusing 100% of your energy on the things that are inside of your control. And what's inside of your control? This moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, not last week, this moment. When you are focused on this moment, on trying to be the best you can in every single moment, just take it one step at a time, focusing on things inside of your control. That in itself is going to breed patience. But when you're focused on outcomes and destinations and everything going outside of yourself, that's going to breed impatience. So when we're feeling impatient, what are we going to do? We're going to use that as an opportunity, perspective shift. When we feel impatient, we're going to use that as an opportunity and a signal that, hey, whoa, maybe my attention is going to a lot of things outside of my control. What other people are doing, the timelines of others, outcomes, destinations, when things need to happen, expectations. So whenever I'm feeling impatient, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to reflect, okay, where is my attention going? And then if I see it's going to things that are outside of my control or a little swayed, I'm going to use intention to bring myself back to the present. Come on. Come on. And now moving to the last point of the day, and we're going to end this podcast. It's been a good conversation. Persistence. Persistence. The importance of persistence. If I didn't have persistence, I would not be sitting here today in front of this camera, because persistence is incredibly important. At some point on the journey, it stops being about how inspired you feel and starts being about how committed you are. Persistence is showing up when the emotions fade, when motivation isn't there, and when things aren't working the way you expect it. Can you still persist through those moments? Motivation ain't there. Things ain't working in the way you expected. Can you still be persistent? Can you still show up? That's what persistence is asking you of, and that's why it's so important. We're going to rely on the commitment over the motivation. Commitment over motivation. I'm committed to being the best version of myself. So no matter if I'm feeling motivated or not, I'm going to continue to show up for me. No, it's not going to be perfect. No, it's not always going to look glamorous, but I'm going to keep showing up for myself. But when you're relying solely on motivation, solely on feeling good, that fades. So now when you're not motivated to be the best version of yourself, you're not. When you don't feel like continuing to show up, you won't. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. I've seen that so many times in athletics. I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like getting extra shots up, so I don't. I don't feel like doing the full workout, so I won't. At the beginning of this season, everybody's great. Everything's cool. Playing time starts to get cut. People not doing the things that they thought they would do. Season starts to get long. Now you really see who's committed or not. So you got to make that commitment to yourself. Hey, I'm going to be there for you through thick and thin. It's the same in a relationship with somebody else. It's not the chemistry that's going to make the relationship last. It's the commitment to each other that's going to make the relationship last. And I know Gabe can speak on this because he's in a relationship, but that honeymoon phase at the beginning, that fades.
It fades.
And then you need commitment. Hey, I'm here with you through the times where everything's great and through the times where maybe we're going through a rough patch.
Talk about faith and patience and persistence.
Go ahead, bro.
I could tell you firsthand, you need all of those things for a long-term successful relationship. You think after I've been dating my girlfriend for 3 years, after 3 years, there's not going to be times that test you or your relationship where you're going to not be a little frustrated sometimes, a little impatient. It's keeping that faith in the relationship and in that person and in what you built, and keeping the persistence to continue growing together and making progress together even when it's really hard.
And And then being patient
Being
with yourself and the other person
Yep.
as you're continuing to understand who they are.
Yeah. And you know what I found is it's harder to be patient with yourself than it is to be with your partner, at least in my case, sometimes.
Why so?
I just, I found that we come from two very different upbringings and two different backgrounds. And so I have naturally a different reaction to conflict. And a lot of times I need to step back and have patience with myself because um, I oftentimes jump right to problem solving. And sometimes you can't solve a problem right away. You need to sit with yourself and sit with the conflict for a little bit and let it have space to breathe. So it's having that patience and having the faith that it'll figure things out. You'll figure things out as long as you keep faith in each other and persistence in the relationship. All these things come together beautifully.
It's
a real life challenge and way to practice these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it can apply to every area of your life.
Yep.
Faith, patience, and persistence in all areas of your life. Whether it's the gym, whether it's your diet, whether it's your relationships, whether it's a career, whether it's a hobby, a new endeavor. Faith, patience, and persistence.
A cool way to reframe it, though, is maybe it's not stuff that you have to do, but stuff that you get to do. Persistence, faith, and patience are all tools in your toolbox to gain success. Because a lot of times, success does not just come from talent. A lot of times it doesn't. Success comes from people who don't quit and who keep that persistence.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Faith, persistence, patience.
A lot of people stop pursuing their goals because they're not receiving that immediate external validation. Maybe the growth is slow and there's maybe distractions in their life pulling them away from that. But if you keep the patience, you keep the persistence, and you keep the faith that this is going to bring you somewhere beautiful.
Come on. And
that's how you achieve growth.
Man, and I was watching the Andrew Huberman podcast. He said the goal is not, you have to shift from pursuit of pleasure to pleasure of pursuit.
Yeah.
So you have to get to a place to where you just love the journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about getting anywhere specific. It is the journey. Every single day of waking up and getting to try new things, of getting to take steps towards being a better version of yourself. Fall in love with the process. The outcomes will take care of themselves. When you are so committed to the process and so ingrained in the process, you stop attaching yourself to timelines. You stop attaching yourself to the speed of things. You stop attaching yourself to outcomes and destinations. And you get so lost in the process, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Start to become grateful for all seasons. Start to become more present. Start to take it one day at a time, one step at a time, with a grain of salt.
Yep. But sometimes it's a lot more simple than what we make it out to be. Sometimes while we're in that fog of the process, sometimes we lose that eagle-eyed vision of maybe the only difference between you and success is just not quitting. Think about that. Like maybe there's going to be a week or a whole month or 2 months that are really hard and you feel like you're losing progress. Maybe it's just persisting through that.
If you knew, let's say you had a full-blown conversation with the universe, with God, real talk. I was talking to my mom about this. Let's say you having a real conversation with God. God said, I guarantee you in 3 to 5 years, the vision that you have in your heart, you're going to step fully into it in a way that you cannot even conceptualize. Your only job is to keep the faith, is to be patient, and please do not stop showing up. If you do those 3 things, I can promise you're going to get to where you need to be. If you knew that when you were going through a season of uncertainty or things got really tough, you would still keep showing up. You would still keep leaning on faith, and you would just deep down, I already know. I know I'm going to get there, so this is okay. This is just a season. I'll be okay. But obviously, we don't have that luxury experience happen, or luxury. So when we face those times, a lot of times it's just like, I don't know if it's going to work. Doubt creeps in, like we talked about last episode. I don't know. You start to lose belief in yourself. I don't know if I'm able to do it. But if you knew 100% that if you just kept showing up through those times, you would get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
How would you navigate those times?
Mm-hmm.
That's the perspective you need to carry, because I promise you, if you keep showing up for yourself, you are going to get to exactly where you're meant to be. And this is why I love this podcast, because we're all on a journey together. Whether you found this podcast today or you've been watching since we started in 2024, this is we're on a journey together. We're going through this together. We're growing together. So we're able to live this stuff in real time. Faith, persistence, and patience. So many times on this journey, I've had doubt. So many times on this journey, I've lost belief.
I was about to say that. How many times have you and I had doubt?
Man,
How many times? So
recently, that's why I made the podcast episode on it the other week. Like, it's a part of it. But we're going to keep showing up.
Yeah.
Breakthroughs often come right after the moment people feel like giving up. That's very true. Oftentimes, right after you go through a very tough time, there's a breakthrough. When you go through some of the most difficult moments in your life, there's a breakthrough that follows. With that understanding, it's going to help you to stay persistent through those tough times. A lot of people, when they go through those really difficult times, for me, I remember vividly, I started WAGOS a month after one of the hardest heartbreaks of my life. It was a very, very tough situation. And then this came from it. Obviously, I had it marinating, but I just went into the season where I was able to be very expansive and open because of what I was going through. So yeah. And they say most people quit right before it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say if you quit, you guarantee not making it.
Yeah.
If you quit, you guarantee it not working.
Same thing for me. I met my girlfriend after the hardest period of my entire life. Went through a really bad breakup. Went through several months of really, really, really horrible period. And I had finally given up on trying to sort my life out and trying to find a girlfriend, find a partner. Spent so long trying to meet people and find people, go on dates. Finally gave up. You know what? Let the universe do its thing. Right then is when I met my girlfriend.
It's crazy. You let go.
She says the same thing.
And you let go. That's a beautiful.
Finally let go.
Let go and just trust.
Now it's been 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Kylie.
Yeah.
If she's listening.
Shout out.
This was listening. But yeah, it's so important.
Yeah.
We could talk about this for hours.
We could, yeah.
We're gonna wrap up the episode because that was a great conversation. I got a good amount of DMs from you guys too, talking about certain topics and questions that you guys have. So please keep sending those in. Next episode, we're gonna talk a little bit more about relationships. I've had certain relationships in my life that have changed. Gabe has been through that so many times, and I know that we got a couple of people who reached out talking about navigating relationships, especially when you're growing and changing. So definitely reach out and we'll stay consistent with that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about the new format. Definitely a different vibe. It's a really different vibe when there's somebody else in here in the studio with me, going through the scripts and stuff. So let me know your thoughts, pros, cons. We want to hear it all. But I appreciate each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. Gabe, my brother, you look great.
Thanks for having me on, bro.
Absolutely. And remember, most importantly, to take everything with a grain of salt. I will catch you guys next week. Deuces.